Life often confronts us with choices where morality clashes with fear, where compassion becomes a rebellion against rigid rules. In moments of crisis, our humanity is tested, and a single act of courage can ripple across lives in ways we never imagined. Sometimes, protecting the innocent isn't convenient. Sometimes, showing kindness defies power, wealth, and authority. Yet, in those rare moments, the heart speaks louder than fear, and what we choose to do reveals the person we truly are. The crystal vase shattered against the marble floor, and Nia Robinson's heart froze, her dark brown eyes wide with shock as chaos erupted around her. 5-year-old Dante Ritchie stood on the grand staircase, fists clenched, tears streaming down his cheeks, sobs echoing like thunder through the mansion. His tiny voice pierced the room, screaming, "I want Mama. Where's Mama?" Shaking the elegant foyer with grief no one could ignore. The other staff froze in fear, pale faces betraying their knowledge of what happens when someone upsets the boss's son, stories of firings fresh in their minds. Nia, new and cautious, could barely breathe. She had been hired 3 days ago, just another face in this opulent, dangerous household. Then she heard the steps, heavy, deliberate, and filled with danger. Antonio Ritchie emerged, his tall frame casting a long shadow across the marble floor. His dark eyes scanned the scene, taking in the broken vase, the trembling staff, and his son's tear-streaked, distraught face with quiet calculation. The mansion seemed to grow colder, the tension thick enough to choke, as everyone silently waited for Antonio's reaction. Nia knew she should stay hidden. She was just a housekeeper, invisible and inexperienced, with no right to interfere in a mafia empire. But Dante's sobs grew more desperate, piercing Nia's heart, stirring something she couldn't ignore, a call to humanity over caution. She stepped forward, slow and deliberate, moving closer to the child whose pain she could not simply walk away from. Antonio's gaze followed her, dark and sharp, sensing every move, measuring her with the precision of a predator evaluating a threat. Nia reached Dante, kneeling carefully, not too close, offering calm in the chaos, her presence a quiet rebellion against the rigid rules of the mansion. Dante looked up, eyes wide, his brown hair sticking out in every direction, and for a moment, fear and distrust shadowed his small face. "I'm not going to yell," Nia whispered softly, her dark hands folded neatly in her lap, voice carrying warmth that cut through the tension. The boy's suspicious gaze met hers, confusion and longing mingling, searching for kindness in a world ruled by fear and wealth. "My name's Nia," she said. "I cleaned the house, but I heard you were hurting and I wanted to help, if that's okay." Dante's voice wavered, small and fragile. "I don't need friends. I need Mama," he murmured, hiding his face against his knees. Nia's chest tightened. She knew grief. Losing a mother at 5 was a pain she recognized from a life of hardships on Chicago's South Side. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, smooth stone, dark with flecks of gold. "My grandma said love never leaves us," she said gently. Dante's eyes widened, fascinated, a spark of curiosity and hope breaking through the storm of grief he carried like armor. "You see these gold specks," Nia continued. "They're memories that shine when we remember the good times. Your mama's love is still with you." The boy scooted closer, small fingers brushing against the stone, and a tentative trust began to form between them, fragile yet real. "Can I hold it?" Dante whispered, trembling, clutching the stone with a grip that mirrored both hope and fear. Nia placed it in his hand gently. "You can keep it, if you want. Remember, love stays with you, even when people leave." A tear rolled down Dante's cheek. He launched himself forward, arms wrapping around Nia's neck, seeking comfort, and she hugged him carefully, gently. At that moment, the door creaked open, and Antonio stood there, dark and imposing, watching his son cling to a stranger with shock and curiosity. His powerful frame radiated authority, but something inside him stirred, a dangerous mix of hope and disbelief at what he was witnessing. Nia felt the weight of his gaze but did not move. She simply held Dante, letting him cry, letting him find solace in someone who cared. Antonio clenched his jaw, hand tightening on the doorframe. Rules were broken, protocols defied, yet the sight before him stirred emotions he thought were buried forever. Dante's sobs quieted, small fingers gripping Nia's uniform. Antonio felt a pull, a dangerous shift in the controlled world he'd built around fear and power. The choice lay before him: follow the rules and punish, or recognize the humanity and compassion that had reached his son when no one else could. Nia looked up at him, dark eyes steady despite the fear in her chest. She had done what was right, even in the face of danger and authority. Antonio finally spoke, his voice low, dangerous, yet curious. "Miss Robinson, you just broke every rule in my house. Explain yourself." Nia held Dante closer, her heart hammering. "Sir, I couldn't ignore a hurting child. I know my place, but he needed someone." Antonio stepped closer, the cologne of cedar and leather filling the air. "Do you know what happens to people who disobey me?" "I can imagine," Nia said, her voice steady. "But being afraid doesn't change what's right. Your son needed comfort, and I gave it." For a moment, silence stretched between them, tense as a drawn wire, each measuring the other, predator and human intertwined in a dangerous dance. Antonio studied her, dark eyes piercing. You're afraid of me. Yes, she admitted, but I couldn't just stand by while he suffered. He circled her slowly, a shadow moving in a room lit by grief and marble. Disobedience in my world equals disloyalty, and disloyalty, well, usually ends badly. Naya straightened, chin lifted, letting courage flow through her veins. I'm not disloyal, I'm human. I cared for a child when no one else would. Antonio paused, observing her expression, the way her natural curls fell over her shoulders, the gentle authority in her stance, and something shifted. You have backbone, he admitted quietly, a rare admission. Not many would risk everything for a child like that. Naya exhaled, realizing she hadn't thought about consequences. She had simply acted from the heart, instinctively, like survival back in Chicago's South Side. Antonio's jaw relaxed slightly, the first trace of softness since his wife's death. You reached him. I can't ignore that. Dante peeked from behind Naya's small brown eyes wide, sensing the shift in his father's tone, hope flickering amidst fear. Antonio pulled out his phone, making a call. Mrs. Chen, Naya Robinson is now Dante's nanny. Triple her salary. Effective immediately. Nia's mind raced. From housekeeper to nanny in one day, responsible for the boss's son, in the midst of mafia power, danger, and grief. Antonio's voice softened as he spoke to her. You are responsible for my son. Everything rests on you. His safety, happiness, life itself. The weight pressed on Nia like a tangible force, fear and honor entwined. She whispered, I'll do my best. I won't fail him. Antonio stepped closer, a hand brushing a loose curl behind her ear, warm against her skin. The touch sent shivers through her body. I saw how you held him, he said. Like his pain mattered. That's rare, almost impossible to teach. Nia swallowed, heart racing. It's not teaching, it's caring. Something you can't force, only feel. Antonio nodded, stepping back, regaining his cold, composed facade. There are rules. You live here, on call 24/7. No discussions outside. You never put Dante in danger. I understand, she said, more firmly now. Danger didn't scare her. Protecting a child did. Every risk in this world seemed worth it. Antonio's dark eyes lingered. Thank you for seeing my son when everyone else saw a problem. You are exceptional. Nia's gaze met his, realizing the enormity of her position, the delicate line between loyalty, compassion, and survival in a mafia world. The next morning, she heard Dante's frightened cry at 2:47 a.m. She rushed in, pulling on her robe, her instincts sharp and protective. He had woken from a nightmare, calling for Mama. Nia held him close, whispering, It's just a dream. You're safe. I've got you. Dante curled into her, gripping her robe tightly. His tears fell freely, but Nia remained steadfast, comfort and courage wrapped around him like armor. Antonio appeared silently in the doorway, watching, eyes soft for once. He didn't interrupt, letting Nia comfort his son, witnessing her bravery and warmth. She looks like light, he murmured to himself, comparing Nia's compassion to his wife's memory. For once, control and fear gave way to gratitude. Dante's breathing calmed, small hands finally relaxing. The child, previously untouchable, now trusted Nia completely, a bond forged in raw emotion. Antonio instructed her gently, Take care of him, his world, his heart. All of it now rests with you. Nia nodded, understanding the stakes. Days passed, and Nia adapted. Each act of care, song or lullaby, deepening the trust between her and Dante, weaving herself into the Ricci family's fragile ecosystem. Even breakfasts became a battlefield of love and power. As Antonio watched from the shadows, measuring each gesture, each laugh, aware danger lurked outside their walls. Then came the park. Marco, Antonio's trusted man, escorted them. Dante played freely, laughter filling the air. But Nia felt the cold prickle of being watched. A black van blocked their path. Men emerged, weapons drawn. Marco shielded Dante, but Nia stood frozen, understanding she had become the target. She made a split-second decision. Let Dante go. Take me, protect him above all. Her bravery shone, even as bullets rang out, and chaos erupted around them. Strong arms lifted her. Antonio's face appeared, fear and fury burning through him. Nia, are you hurt? I'm okay. Dante's safe, she gasped, heart pounding. Marco had Dante. Nia had offered herself a human shield for the child she had come to love. Antonio's rage turned to desperation, relief, and undeniable passion. Antonio kissed her, fierce and claiming, mixing fear, relief, and desire in a way that mirrored the danger they lived in, the fragile trust they shared, and the lives they now intertwined. Antonio pulled Nia close, holding her as if letting go would undo the world. You are my reckoning, he whispered, voice rough with emotion, both danger and vulnerability intertwined. Nia's hands gripped his coat. And you are his father. I won't let anything hurt him, no matter the cost, not even you. Antonio studied her, every scar, every fear, every courage etched across her face. You make me human. I've not felt this in years, maybe ever. Outside, the city hummed, unaware of the lives entangled in its shadows. Mafia rules still ruled, but within these walls, a fragile alliance formed, born of love and loyalty. Dante ran to Nia, arms wide. Mama, you stayed. Her heart melted, the weight of fear and protection giving way to pure relief and joy. Antonio watched silently, realizing that Nia's devotion had tamed something within him. He'd met his match, not in fear, but in courage and care. Later that night, the Mafia council convened. Antonio's rivals whispered, planning moves. Unaware that Dante's nanny had already secured the boy's trust and Antonio's softening heart, Nia stood at the window thinking about Chicago, the South Side, her journey here, and how survival meant not just strength, but love and cleverness intertwined. Antonio came behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "You are not just a protector, you are part of this family now. Do you understand?" Nia nodded, feeling the weight of loyalty and responsibility. "I do, and I won't let anyone harm him or you." Days turned into weeks. Dante laughed freely, playing in the yard, learning to trust, while Nia balanced care with the subtle politics of the Mafia household. Antonio noticed every small act, how she arranged Dante's toys, prepared his meals, and even argued with him when necessary. Respect and admiration grew silently. One evening, as rain fell outside, Antonio found her reading Dante a story. He realized that she had not just saved his son, but had reshaped his life completely. "You changed everything," he said softly. "Not just Dante, not just me. This house feels alive again because of you." Nia smiled, tired but unwavering. "I didn't do it for you. I did it because he needed love. That's all that matters." Antonio leaned closer, his forehead touching hers. "Love sometimes comes disguised as danger, doesn't it?" "Yes," she whispered, "and sometimes courage comes disguised as a child's cry in the middle of the night." The Mafia world outside remained ruthless, but inside the mansion, respect, trust, and an unexpected bond had formed, unshakable despite threats looming everywhere. Antonio entrusted her with more than just Dante's care. She managed finances, household security, and even handled delicate messages to allies, earning loyalty quietly. Nia never sought power. She only sought safety and love for Dante, yet she became indispensable, the hidden backbone of the Ricci empire. Months passed, and the threat of rivals never ceased. But Antonio had learned to rely on her judgment, her courage, her intuition, blending love with strategy. Bullets shattered windows, alarms blared, but Dante remained hidden, and Nia fearless, guided Antonio's men, proving that her courage equaled any soldier's. After the chaos, Antonio looked at her, bruised but unbowed. "You survived. You led. You were more than I imagined." Nia's eyes met his, unwavering. "I didn't survive for me. I survived for him. That's all that matters." In the calm that followed, Antonio embraced her fully, finally letting down the walls his life of violence had built. "You are my equal," he admitted, "and my heart belongs to you as much as to Dante." Dante ran between them, hugging both tightly. The child's laughter echoed, a symbol of trust, love, and the fragile humanity within a world of crime and power. The mansion, once a fortress of fear, became a home filled with laughter, respect, and unspoken alliances forged through shared courage and devotion. Nia finally sat by the fireplace, Dante asleep on her lap. Antonio stood nearby, watching silently, realizing that their bond had created something stronger than fear, stronger than power. Family. Even the Mafia world outside respected them differently now. Antonio's rivals knew that the woman who could protect his son also commanded loyalty, courage, and strategic brilliance. In the quiet night, Antonio whispered, "You are my reckoning, my peace, and my strength." Nia smiled softly, exhausted but triumphant. "Together we'll protect him," she said. "No matter what comes, no one will break us. Not fear, not power, not even death." And in that moment, the mansion's shadows felt safe. Dante slept, Antonio softened, and Nia, the protector, the nurturer, the unyielding heart, finally found a place to belong. The storm outside could rage endlessly. Inside, courage, love, and loyalty had created a fortress no rival could breach, no bullet could pierce, and no darkness could shadow. Days later, a package arrived at the estate, unmarked, heavy. Nia opened it carefully, discovering a note. "We know who protects the boy. Be ready." Her hands trembled, but her resolve hardened. Protecting Dante meant facing danger head-on. Antonio stood beside her, dark eyes unreadable. "They're testing us. You knew the stakes when you stayed. Nia, are you ready?" She nodded. "For him, I am." Marco briefed the household. Every exit, every shadow monitored. Nia's mind raced with strategies she'd learned from Antonio's men. Danger lurked everywhere, but she would not falter. Dante sensed tension but didn't understand. "Is everything okay?" Nia hugged him tightly. "Yes, baby. Everything's fine. We're just being careful." Her voice was steady, hiding fear. Antonio watched them, heart torn between duty and emotion. This woman, this black woman with fire in her eyes, had become the linchpin of his world, his family, and his empire. The sun set over the mansion. Shadows grew long. A black SUV parked outside. Nia and Marco saw the men approaching. Antonio's jaw tightened. "Stay with Dante. Trust no one but me and Marco." Nia's mind raced. The streets of Chicago had taught her survival. The South Side rules applied even in mansions, even against Mafia power. She steeled herself. The intruders burst in, masked, armed. Marco moved with precision, positioning himself between Naya, Dante, and the attackers. Naya grabbed a nearby heavy vase, ready to defend. Bullets tore through the windows. Dante screamed. Antonio stormed in, moving with lethal speed. Nia ducked, shielded the boy, and realized she was no longer just a housekeeper. She was a protector. One attacker lunged toward Dante. Nia slammed a vase into his shoulder, sending him sprawling. Her heart pounded. This was no longer pretend. This was life or death. Antonio's men neutralized the rest. Naya, breathing hard, checked Dante. The boy clung to her, terrified, trusting her completely. Every instinct, every lesson from her past, had prepared her for this. After the chaos, silence filled the estate. Antonio walked toward Naya, bruised and bleeding slightly. "You saved him. You saved us all." Naya shook her head. "No, I just did what any mother would do, and I couldn't let him see the world through fear." Antonio's expression softened, almost human, almost tender. "You were more than anyone could have imagined. More than me." Dante, wide-eyed, whispered, "Nia, you're like Mama. You're brave." Nia hugged him tightly. "I'm here, baby, always." Evening descended, shadows mixing with flickering candlelight. Antonio and Nia sat together, Dante asleep nearby. The weight of survival, loyalty, and love hung between them, unspoken yet unbroken. Antonio finally spoke, voice low, dangerous yet intimate. "I can't lose you. Not to fear, not to rivals, not to this world." Nia smiled faintly, exhaustion and determination mixing. "Then don't. But remember, I'm not afraid of your enemies. I'm afraid of failing." Dante. The night passed in tense silence, broken only by the occasional cry of a distant siren. The mansion stood, secure yet ever under threat, like the fragile bond they had formed. Weeks later, the city buzzed with rumors. Antonio's rivals whispered of the woman who survived an ambush, saved the boy, and commanded respect silently, dangerously. Naya continued her vigilance. Every smile Dante offered, every laugh reminded her why she risked everything. Her life was entwined with his, with Antonio's, in ways she had never imagined. Antonio watched from the doorway, noticing how she handled danger with calm precision. "You are extraordinary," he murmured, knowing full well she would deny it. One night he approached her as she tucked Dante in. "I've never trusted anyone like I trust you, not a single soul, not even myself." Naya looked up at him, steady. "Then trust me now. Let me protect him, and let me protect you. The way we protect what matters most." The Mafia world outside remained ruthless, but within the estate, a new hierarchy formed based on loyalty, courage, and respect earned, not demanded. Antonio finally allowed himself to breathe. Naya had become indispensable, not just to Dante, but to him. She had softened the edge of his empire without breaking its power. Dante's laughter filled the halls once more. Naya watched him, heart swelling. Antonio stepped beside her. "You did this," he said softly, eyes locking on hers. Naya shook her head. "We did this, together." The unspoken tension, the forbidden attraction, lingered, dangerous but undeniable. Antonio placed a hand over hers. "Then we face it together. Every enemy, every threat. I will not let anyone hurt you, not ever." Nia's resolve hardened. "And I won't let anyone hurt Dante or you." The declaration, simple yet fierce, sealed an unspoken pact between them. Next morning Naya woke to the hum of the estate. Antonio had already left, leaving a note. "Eyes open today. Danger never sleeps." Her heart sank, but she steeled herself. Every day in this house could be a battle. Dante bounded in, cheerful despite yesterday's chaos. "Naya, can we play outside?" Her lips curved into a tired but genuine smile. "Yes, baby, let's get ready." Every laugh from him was a victory against the darkness outside. Marco joined them at breakfast, alert, eyes scanning. "Something's off today," he muttered. Nia nodded subtly. Danger didn't announce itself. It slithered, invisible until it struck. As Dante ran ahead to the garden, Nia followed, scanning every shadow. A black SUV rolled past the gate slowly, engine silent. Marco's hand on his weapon told her all she needed. Antonio appeared at the window, observing a silent guardian. The unspoken trust between him and Nia deepened. Both knew what was at stake. Dante's laughter was their shield, their motivation. The SUV returned, and two men jumped out, aggressive and fast. Naya stepped in front of Dante. Marco reacted instantly, blocking their path. Every second counted. Survival depended on precision, not panic. Bullets tore into the air, shattering glass. Naya ducked behind a marble pillar, Dante clinging to her. She remembered every lesson from her South Side childhood. Fear didn't stop bullets, courage did. Antonio stormed outside, moving with lethal grace. The attackers faltered at his presence, but Nia knew the danger wasn't over. These men didn't fight fair. They came to hurt the boy, the family, anyone vulnerable. She spotted one attacker aiming at Dante. Without hesitation, Nia pushed him to the ground, taking the brunt herself. Pain shot through her arm, but she ignored it. Protecting Dante was all that mattered. Marco neutralized the other intruder. Naya, heart racing, checked Dante. His small hands clutched hers tightly. It's okay, baby, I've got you. Her words were steady, though adrenaline surged through her veins. Antonio arrived, dark eyes blazing. You risked everything for him, he said, voice low, intense. And for that, you're officially mine to trust. No one else gets this honor. Naya met his gaze, unflinching despite the threat around them. Then let me keep him safe. I'll do whatever it takes. That's my promise. The words weren't just a vow, they were steel. Dante looked between them, confused but comforted. Naya, you're like mama, he whispered. She hugged him tightly. I'm here, baby. I'll never leave you. The attackers fled, leaving chaos behind. Antonio's hand brushed against Nia's shoulder. Silent gratitude, respect, and something dangerously intimate passed between them. In the aftermath, Nia cleaned up, but her mind raced. Every laugh from Dante, every glance from Antonio reminded her that peace here was temporary, always threatened by the outside world. The evening came, and the mansion felt quieter than usual. Shadows lingered in corners, a reminder that their enemies watched, waited, and planned. Naya stayed vigilant, heart steady, body tense. Antonio entered, dark and brooding, but softened as he watched Naya soothe Dante. He couldn't hide the fierce pride swelling inside him. She had become more than a housekeeper. She had become indispensable. Tonight, he said, voice low, intimate, dangerous, we plan. Tomorrow, we strike first. Naya nodded, knowing their world wasn't about waiting. It was about survival, strategy, and loyalty. Dante, unaware of the danger, laughed in his sleep. Naya watched him, feeling the weight of responsibility settle in her chest. Protecting him was more than a job. It was her life now. Antonio approached her, the faintest hint of a smile breaking his stoic expression. You're stronger than I expected. Smarter, fearless, and somehow still human. Nia's lips twitched. I've had to be. My life taught me that. But I won't let Dante see fear, not mine, not anyone else's. Marco reported a new threat. A rival family had tracked them to the estate. Antonio's jaw tightened. This is why you stay close to him. You are his shield, and you are mine. Naya nodded, determination blazing in her dark eyes. Then I'll stand between him and anyone who wants to hurt him. No one touches Dante. Not today, not ever. Antonio's hand brushed hers, quick, a fleeting touch of intimacy. And you won't just stand. You'll fight, with me, for him, for us. The night fell, and the mansion locked down tighter than ever. Naya lay beside Dante in his new room, every muscle tense, every sense alert. Sleep was optional. Survival was mandatory. Antonio's presence outside the door was a silent promise. He trusted her, he depended on her. And for the first time, Nia realized this wasn't just about protecting a child, it was about forming a family forged in fire, loyalty, and unspoken love. The next morning, Nia woke with the lingering tension still hanging in the air. Antonio hadn't appeared yet, but a note on the desk read, "Stay alert, eyes everywhere." She swallowed hard, steeling herself for another day in a world where danger lurked behind every corner. Dante burst into the room, his innocent smile cutting through the tension. "Nia, can we play outside?" She returned a tired but warm smile. "Sure, baby, let's go." Every laugh, every carefree moment of Dante's was a small victory in a life overshadowed by fear and power. Marco appeared, his presence commanding as he scanned the area. "Something feels off today," he muttered. Naya nodded subtly. Danger didn't announce itself. It crept in silently, blending into the daylight while enemies lurked, waiting for the smallest lapse in vigilance. Dante ran toward the garden, carefree for now, and Nia followed close behind. The mansion's opulent grounds seemed calm, but Nia's senses screamed otherwise. She clutched Dante's hand tightly, feeling the weight of Antonio's warning and the knowledge that her position made her a target. Nia kept Dante close, her eyes darting to every shadow. Even in broad daylight, she couldn't ignore the feeling of being watched. Her brown skin glistened under the sun, a sharp contrast to the pale children playing nearby, highlighting the outside estate as she had learned to navigate her whole life. Marco moved like a panther, positioning himself strategically between them and the edge of the park. "Stay calm, walk normal, nothing to alert them," he instructed. Naya nodded, heart pounding, gripping Dante's small hand as her mind raced with worst-case scenarios. A black van appeared suddenly at the park entrance. Too deliberate to be casual. Naya froze, Dante tugging at her arm. The men inside were pale, eyes cold, intent clear. Marco's hand went to his weapon, his dark eyes calculating, assessing the threat. "Move, Dante, now," Marco barked. Nia's stomach twisted. Could she trust him completely? The world had taught her to be wary, but Antonio had entrusted Marco, one of the most lethal enforcers in the city, with their safety. The men jumped out, guns drawn, their aim locked on Nia. "She's the one," one sneered, voice thick with menace. "She's the weak point. She'll make him bleed." Nia's pulse surged, but she refused to let Dante see fear. "Go take Dante to the car," she shouted, keeping her voice firm. The boy clung to her, crying, his small frame shaking with terror. She whispered, "Be brave, just like your mama would have wanted." Shots rang out. Time slowed. Marco moved instantly, a wall between them and the assailants. The first man fell, blood blooming across his jacket. The second spun, weapon raised, but Marco's bullet found him too. Nia stumbled backward, hitting the pavement hard. A strong, familiar presence lifted her off the ground. Antonio, his dark, commanding eyes scanned her face. Anguish and fury mixed with relief. "Nia, are you hurt?" he demanded, voice low, desperate. She shook her head. "I'm fine. Dante, he's safe. Marco has him. He's safe," Antonio confirmed, pulling her close. "You offered yourself in his place." Nia met his gaze. Of course, he could have died, but Dante wouldn't have. Her voice was steady despite adrenaline coursing through her veins. Antonio's fingers framed her face, thumbs brushing her cheeks, his hold fierce yet protective. "You're mine now," he whispered, voice thick with possessive intensity. "Mine to protect, mine to keep safe, understand?" Nia nodded, pulse racing, the weight of his words sinking in. Their kiss was desperate, claiming a mix of fear and passion, a statement of survival, control, and forbidden attraction. When they broke apart, both breathless, Antonio pressed his forehead to hers. "I can't lose you," he whispered. "Not now. Not ever." 6 months later, the estate was calm. Dante laughed, chasing butterflies across the gardens, his pure joy lighting up the space. Nia's heart ached with relief and love as Antonio wrapped strong arms around her from behind, chin resting on her shoulder. "Happy," he murmured softly. "Terrified," she admitted, glancing over her shoulder at him. "Your enemies still want me dead. Our lives complicated." Antonio kissed her softly, promise and protection intertwined in the gesture, solidifying their bond. Dante ran toward them, holding the smooth dark stone with gold flecks Nia had given him months ago. "It still works. The memories still shine," he grinned. The gold flecks sparkled, a tangible symbol of love, protection, and survival against a world full of danger. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows over the Ricci estate. Nia wiped sweat from her brow, gripping Dante's hand tightly, aware that every move outside the mansion carried risk. Her dark skin stood out against the pale marble driveway, a reminder she was always visible to predators. Antonio stood nearby, his presence a shield. His tall, imposing figure, dark suit and piercing eyes made it clear anyone who dared approach would regret it. Nia felt both safe and vulnerable, the paradox of being protected by a man who could destroy the world around them. Marco circled the property, his black jacket blending with the twilight shadows. He scanned the horizon, silent and precise, a reminder that danger was never far. Nia knew the men who had targeted her before wouldn't stop, but Marco's presence gave her a sliver of hope. Dante tugged at her sleeve, pointing toward a group of children playing. "Can I go?" he asked, voice small. Nia's heart clenched. Even in a controlled park, he was still a target. She shook her head gently. "Not yet, baby. Stay close to me." Antonio's gaze softened as he watched Nia manage the boy. "You've done well," he murmured. His voice held pride, respect, and something dangerous. Trust. Nia's pulse quickened. Trust from a man like him was rare, and it came with unspoken rules she was only beginning to understand. Suddenly, the sound of a car door slamming echoed down the long driveway. Nia's head snapped up. She recognized the black van silhouette. Her stomach turned. The men were back, more deliberate, more dangerous. Antonio's jaw tightened, eyes narrowing. Marco moved first, signaling Nia and Dante toward a side path. "Follow me, quietly. Stay close. Don't panic," he ordered. Nia's heart hammered, but she obeyed, feeling Dante cling to her with desperate trust. The child's innocence contrasted sharply with the deadly reality around them. Antonio stepped forward, dark eyes scanning the approaching threat. "Not on my watch," he muttered, low and deadly. His hand hovered near his concealed weapon. The air thickened with tension. Even the birds seemed to hold their breath. The men emerged, pale and masked, guns glinting. "You can't hide forever," one hissed, voice dripping with malice. Antonio's stance was rigid, commanding. "This family doesn't negotiate with cowards," he replied, voice calm but lethal. Nia felt Dante's small body trembling against hers. "It's okay," she whispered. "I'm here. You're safe." Her own fear roared beneath the surface, but she held him like armor. Her heart refused to betray the boy, even as danger encircled them. Marco moved like a shadow, positioning himself between the intruders and the women. "Stay here," he ordered. Nia clenched Dante's hand tighter, aware that Marco's words were both warning and shield. She had no weapon, no advantage, only courage and quick thinking. A gunshot rang out. Time slowed. Nia pressed Dante to the ground instinctively, covering him with her body. The cold barrel of fear pressed against her spine. Her mind raced, analyzing every escape, every possible move, every Mafia protocol she'd learned from whispers. Antonio didn't hesitate. He fired once, precise and controlled. The first attacker fell, clutching his chest. The other hesitated, calculating, but Antonio's gaze cut through him like steel. Fear anchored the men in place. This wasn't negotiation, it was survival. Nia looked up, seeing Antonio step forward, every inch a predator. His dark eyes scanned her face, checking for injury. "Are you okay?" he demanded, voice low, urgent. She nodded, chest heaving. I'm fine. Dante's fine. The second attacker tried to run. Marco moved faster. 2 silent shots rang out. The man dropped. Naya felt the adrenaline drain, leaving her trembling but alive. The threat had ended, but the message was clear. Proximity to Antonio meant danger, no matter who you were. Antonio moved to Dante, gently lifting the boy into his arms. Naya watched, heart clenched. The boy's small hands clutched Antonio's suit, fear giving way to relief. The bond between father, protector, and savior was palpable, unspoken, and raw. Thank you, Antonio whispered, eyes never leaving Nia's. There was more than gratitude there, respect, recognition, and a subtle acknowledgement of bravery that few had earned in his world. Naya felt her pulse accelerate, aware that she had passed a test few survived. Dante buried his face in Nia's shoulder for reassurance, but Antonio held him securely, watching the child calm. Nia's dark curls brushed against the boy's cheek. She realized in that moment that care, compassion, and courage were her weapons, perhaps stronger than any gun. The van's remains lay scattered behind them, evidence of failure for the attackers. Antonio's gaze swept over Nia. You understood the risk, he said softly. Her lips parted. I couldn't leave him. Not like that. A tense silence filled the air. Antonio's eyes, dark as espresso, studied her. You understand what this means? He asked, voice low. Being close to my son means being a target. Not everyone survives that. Naya nodded, heart steadying despite lingering fear. The wind shifted, carrying the faint scent of jasmine from the estate's gardens. Dante yawned, exhausted but safe. Nia tucked him closer, feeling the weight of responsibility settle like a cloak around her shoulders. She was no longer just a housekeeper, she was a guardian. Antonio stepped closer, the sun highlighting his strong, dark features. You'll have to adapt to this life, he said, voice both warning and promise. Danger is constant, trust is rare, and loyalty is everything. Nia met his gaze, unflinching. I understand. The estate seemed eerily quiet after the attack. Even the staff moved cautiously, aware of the tension lingering like smoke. Naya walked beside Dante, her dark skin glinting in the fading light, a stark contrast to the pale marble, a silent declaration that she was unmovable. Antonio followed silently, calculating he had underestimated her strength, her bravery. She wasn't just a housekeeper or a nanny. She had courage, compassion, and a spine that refused to bend. That combination was rare, dangerous, and invaluable. Dante clutched a small golden stone, a tangible memory of hope and resilience. Naya smiled softly, brushing his hair back. See, your mama's memories shine, she whispered. The child's eyes sparkled with trust and newfound security. Antonio watched, a rare softness in his gaze. You have changed him, he murmured. His dark features relaxed slightly, and for a moment, the dangerous aura slipped, revealing the man beneath the boss. Nia's chest tightened at the vulnerability she saw. Not just him, Nia said quietly, looking up at Antonio. You too, you're human. You care, even if you hide it behind fear and rules. Antonio's jaw tightened. Care is dangerous, he replied, voice low, but sometimes, it's worth it. The night fell over the estate. Lights twinkled in the distance, a reminder of the outside world, indifferent and chaotic. Naya knew the danger hadn't ended, but she also knew something stronger had emerged. Trust, courage, and a bond unbroken by violence. Antonio leaned down, brushing a loose curl from Naya's face. You'll need to learn the rules, he said softly, and sometimes, break them if it saves what matters most. Nia's lips curved into a small smile. She was ready. Dante yawned, heavy with sleep, safe in Nia's embrace. Antonio stood back, watching, dark eyes fixed on both of them. The Mafia world was still lurking, but for this brief, precious moment, there was peace. Naya realized that survival wasn't just about avoiding bullets or obeying rules. It was about courage, compassion, and choosing to act when fear screamed to run. She'd faced the unthinkable and triumphed, not through strength alone, but through heart. Antonio's hand rested lightly on Nia's shoulder. You've earned more than trust, he said, voice low. You've earned respect. Naya met his gaze, understanding the weight of his words. In his world, respect was life itself. The estate settled into an uneasy calm. Guards patrolled silently. Marco remained vigilant. But inside, Naya felt a quiet fire, a determination that she would protect Dante, face the dangers, and navigate the deadly, beautiful, impossible world she had chosen to be part of. Dante stirred, small hands clutching her uniform. Nia held him close, murmuring, "You're safe, always." The words felt heavier than ever, binding her not just to the child, but to Antonio, to the life she had embraced. Antonio's eyes softened once more. We've survived today, he said. Tomorrow will be different, harder, but today we survived. Naya nodded, heart full of both fear and fierce determination. The stone in Dante's hand caught the moonlight, golden flecks sparkling like tiny beacons of hope. Naya smiled softly. Memories, courage, and trust, they would guide them through the darkness, through every danger yet to come. The next morning, sunlight cut through the heavy curtains, revealing the damage from yesterday's chaos. Nia's body ached, but her resolve remained unshaken. Dante stirred, rubbing his eyes, and she felt the weight of responsibility press heavier than ever. Antonio's phone rang relentlessly, a reminder that the outside world never slept. He answered with a calm, lethal precision, his dark eyes narrowing at every word. Nia watched from the corner, knowing that each call could mean life or death for them all. Marco returned from the perimeter checks, shaking his head. "They're planning something bigger," he warned, voice low. Nia's stomach twisted. She realized yesterday was only the beginning. The Mafia wasn't just a shadow, they were a storm approaching. Dante clung to Nia as if sensing her tension. "Will they come again?" he whispered. Nia held him tighter. "We'll face it together, baby. No one can touch us if we stay smart." Her words were both reassurance and promise. Antonio's gaze lingered on Nia. "You have to understand," he said softly. "This world doesn't forgive mistakes. Even small ones are deadly." Nia nodded, meeting his dark, calculating eyes without flinching. She was ready to learn every rule. The day unfolded with careful precision. Nia moved through the estate with heightened awareness, noting every shadow, every sound. Each step was a lesson in survival, each glance a measure of trust and threat. She felt both terrified and alive. Antonio observed silently from the office, his silhouette stark against the floor-to-ceiling windows. He trusted Nia more than anyone outside his family bloodline, but trust was fragile in this world. One slip, and it could all crumble. A meeting was called in the Grand Hall. Mafia lieutenants, pale and dark-skinned alike, gathered. Nia stood beside Antonio, invisible yet glaringly present. Her presence sent a subtle message. She was part of this life now, for better or worse. Plans were drawn, alliances discussed, enemies catalogued. Nia's mind raced, absorbing each detail, understanding the delicate balance between power, fear, and loyalty. She realized she had grown stronger, sharper, and more dangerous in just days. At dusk, an informant arrived, breathless and anxious. "They're moving tonight," he warned. Antonio's dark eyes flashed with controlled fury. Nia felt the familiar spike of adrenaline. Danger was coming again, faster and deadlier. The estate transformed into a fortress. Guards doubled, shadows watched, and Nia prepared Dante, ensuring he remained unseen and safe. Each step she took was careful, deliberate, a dance on the edge of disaster. Antonio reviewed the intel with meticulous precision. "We hit them first," he decided. Nia caught the glint of determination in his eyes. This was no longer defense. This was calculated offense. She understood. Survival required courage, ruthlessness, and heart. Night fell, cloaking the estate in darkness. Nia crouched beside Dante, whispering softly, "Stay close. Listen to me. We move on my signal." The boy nodded, trusting her completely. She felt a surge of protective fury she had never known before. Antonio led the strike team, moving silently through the shadows. Nia watched from the perimeter, heart racing. Each movement was choreographed, each decision a matter of life and death. She realized she had become part of the lethal rhythm of the Mafia world. The attackers approached, unaware of the ambush. A standoff erupted in the moonlight. Nia's heart pounded, but she stayed silent, a shadowed witness to the deadly ballet unfolding before her eyes. Shots rang out, echoing through the night. Nia clutched Dante, grounding him, shielding him, ensuring his innocence remained untouched while violence raged around them. The contrast of life and death weighed heavily on her. When the smoke cleared, Antonio's forces had prevailed. The intruders lay defeated, a warning sent to anyone who dared threaten his family. Nia exhaled, realizing survival wasn't luck, it was strategy, courage, and loyalty in action. Dante peered out from Nia's arms, eyes wide but safe. Nia smiled, brushing his hair back. "We're okay," she whispered. The words carried the weight of everything they had endured, survived, and learned in these perilous days. Antonio approached, dark suit slightly disheveled, yet his presence remained commanding. "You handled yourself well," he said, voice low, acknowledging her bravery. Nia met his gaze, understanding the depth of unspoken respect in his tone. The mansion was quiet again. The storm temporarily passed. Nia realized the world around them was unforgiving, but she had found strength she never knew existed, and loyalty that transcended bloodlines. Antonio placed a hand on Dante's shoulder. "He's lucky to have you," he murmured. Nia felt a swell of pride. Protecting this boy had become her purpose, and she embraced it fully, knowing that courage was now inseparable from love. The following days were tense but orderly. Nia trained with Marco and Antonio, learning the subtle arts of surveillance, defense, and negotiation. She understood. Power was not brute force alone, but control, perception, and calculated mercy. Every morning Dante smiled up at her, a reminder of why she endured every threat. Nia's dark skin glistened in the sunlight as she walked beside him, a living shield, a mother, and a warrior, all in one. Antonio studied her silently. She had become more than a protector. She was a strategist, a confidant, a crucial part of the family's survival. In her, he saw something rare: heart, courage, and intelligence. One evening, as the sun set, Nia reflected on the journey. From a caretaker to a guardian, from fear to fierce determination, she realized survival was about more than bullets. It was about presence, love, and courage in the face of relentless danger. Dante hugged her tightly, whispering, "I'm safe, right?" Naya smiled, pressing a gentle kiss to his forehead. "Always, forever, nothing can touch us together." The boys' trust solidified the bond that had become unbreakable. Antonio joined them, dark silhouette framed by the fading sun. "You've changed our world," he said. "Danger will come again, but we'll face it, stronger than ever." Nia nodded, ready to embrace the life she had chosen, fully aware of the risks and the rewards. That night, under the moonlight, Nia understood something profound. Courage was not absence of fear, but the choice to act despite it. Loyalty was not obedience, but unwavering dedication. And love was the ultimate weapon, stronger than any gun. Dante slept peacefully, Antonio watched vigilantly, and Nia sat between them. The world outside full of chaos, but their small family untouched, undefeated, and bound by trust, courage, and an unbreakable bond. The estate glimmered in the moonlight, a fortress, a home, a sanctuary. Nia knew the battles were far from over, but for the first time, she felt truly alive, powerful, and unshakably part of a world she had once feared. In the quiet dawn, Nia whispered to herself, "We survived, we will thrive, and nothing can break this family." She glanced at Dante and Antonio, knowing that together they were unstoppable. And so the story closed, not with an end, but with a promise of loyalty, courage, and love forged in fire, standing unbroken against the darkness of the world. Nia had found her place, and it was a place of power, heart, and unwavering protection.